So we're about to head out on an hour-and-a-half tour around the island. Along the way, we're going to make 13 stops. You're more than welcome to get on and off at any of those 13 stops, explore the area. When you're ready to get back and forth, just come back to that one of those stops and there'll be another trolley within 30 minutes. Now, the last trolley visit, if you feel the need to talk to the neighbor, just use your library voices out of courtesy to the other passengers.
Bye, Mark.
Now, as we head out, take a look out the right-hand window, and you'll see this white building with a blue trim. That's the Key West Aquarium, built in 1934 by the WPA during the Great Depression to help promote tourism. Now today they have regularly scheduled presentations every half an hour, and that includes shark feedings. Now you can go swimming with the sharks, but it'll literally cost you an arm or a leg. This is going to be a rough tour, guys. We're going like this beautiful red brick building. That's the old customs house built in 1891. It housed our circuit courts, our post office, and our customs offices, used until 1932. Now this is a beautiful example of Richardsonian Romanesque architecture. See the steep roofs in that building? Those are called snow roofs, and they were mandated by the federal government to keep snow from accumulating on that building and collapsing it. They've done an excellent job in frost-free Key West, silver and emeralds. In 1985, Noel Fisher discovered the Motherlode, pulling up more than $400 million worth of treasure. And you can take a tour through the museum and learn more about those Spanish galleons, and actually see some of the treasure that Mel Fisher brought up. We're approaching our first stop, Stop 1A. They lead to Truman's Little White House, the only presidential museum in the state of Florida. Now, President Truman spent 11 working vacations in Key West, a total of 175 working days. And you can take a guided tour through the museum and learn more about Truman's time in Key West and his presidency. And this is stop number 1A. Key West and Havana, Cuba. Down this red brick driveway, you'll see Green Cottage. That's where the American poet Robert Frost spent 16 seasons writing his poetry. The greenhouse to our right is the second oldest house in Key West, built in 1834. And to the left of the porch is a pirate's boat, the first documented source of fresh water on the island, used since the 1700s. Now on the right-hand corner, we have the house of Dr. Joseph Yates Porter. Dr. Porter was Florida's first public health official. He did extensive research into yellow fever, coming up with quarantine laws which helped eradicate the disease. Now, Dr. Porter was born in this house in 1846. He died 80 years later in the same room he was born in 1926. Coming up on our left is the Curry Mansion. William Curry became Florida's first millionaire. Now, his son Milton Curry completed construction on this mansion in 1913 for just $13,000. Beautiful mansion there. This trio coming up on our right with the pink flowers, that's a mimosa tree. Every morning, new blossoms will bloom on that tree, and at the end of the day, they'll wither away. The next day, new blossoms will bloom on the tree. Now, I've also heard this called a powder puff tree because the blossoms look like powder puffs. 4 houses, our social security offices, and our customs offices. As this ambulance goes by, you might want to cover your ears. They're fairly loud. It had the gruesome nickname, the Bucket of Blood, because of all the fights that broke out there. They say that when you went in, the bouncer would frisk you, and if you didn't have a weapon, he'd give you one just to keep the fights fair. Now today it's a ladies' boutique, and I gotta be honest, I find it just as scary. A few doors down is the Pepe's Cafe. Established in 1909, it's the oldest eatery in the Florida Keys. President Truman loved to sneak away from the Secret Service and come down to Pepe's where he'd have lunch. He would talk to the locals and find out what was on their mind. He cared a lot about the everyday man. That's one reason he had the nickname Truman the Human. Now as we make this left-hand turn into the historic seaport, look out the right-hand window, and you'll see a yellow building with a metal roof. That's a reproduction of Henry Flagler's train station. Today it houses the Sails to Rails Museum. You can go inside and learn more about Flagler's Railroad and the different sailing industries we've had in Key West. Straight ahead of us, you can see the. Hi, how are you doing? I do. Do you have a ticket? What do you have? You have the sticker.
And he said if you need the receipt,
Yeah, let's see what you got here. Second that he painted. Now most of his paintings depict whales. Ours has our local marine life. You can see sharks, rays, sea turtles, and tropical fish painted on the wall today. If you keep looking to your right, you can see the Schooner Wharf Bar. That's the last little piece of old Key West. Now they have a happy hour that starts at 7:30 a.m. They call it the Breakfast Club. They say if you're going to drink all day, you might as well get started early. A lot of people say Key West is a drinking town with a fishing problem. Music instruments on. If you look to your left, you can see Kermit's Key Lime Pie Shop. It's that bright yellow building with green shutters. Now Kermit is world famous for coming up with this key lime pie on it, dipped in chocolate and frozen. It's a very tasty treat on a hot Key West afternoon. He also has a very refreshing key lime ale. Concord Public Seafood Company is right over your right-hand shoulder right there. Somebody was asking about that a few minutes ago. He has bar patrons grab their drinks, they grab their parcels, and anything else they can carry to food doors. It's one of the many festivals we have on Duval Street. It's a lot like Mardi Gras. It's an adult-themed festival. We have some more family-friendly events like Hemingway Days, Concord Public Days, seafood festivals, Lobster Fest, Fridays, Saturdays. Pretty much if you come up to reason close Duval Street and have a party, we will close Duval Street and have that party. Here, on the first floor is the Bull. On the second floor is the Whistle. And on the top floor of the roof is the Garden of Eden. Now the Garden of Eden is a clothing optional bar. So if you decide to go up there and participate, make sure you take your sunscreen. You do not want to burn those naughty bits. To our left is the Fogarty Park. It was at home of John Fogarty. He was there in Key West when they first opened up a railroad from Miami to Key West. Coming up on the left, we have two other Curry mansions. The Hard Rock Cafe and the Women's Club. William Curry was Florida's first millionaire. When he passed away, his children inherited his money and built these beautiful mansions around the island. If you look to your right, you can see this house with all the flags out in front of it. That's the oldest house in Key West, built in 1829. Captain Watlington lived there with his wife and 9 daughters. Now today it's a museum. You can explore the grounds and see what it was like to live there in the 1800s. This yellow building coming up on our right is the oldest schoolhouse in Key West. If you look up on the second glass, this tall yellow building coming up on our right is the tallest civilian building in Key West. It's our skyscraper, the La Concha Hotel. Now the playwright Tennessee Williams finished writing the streetcar named Desire here. And this will be stop number 4. This will be your stop for the La Concha Hotel, middle of the Duval Street. The original Jimmy Buckets Market. The San Carlos Institute with this big Cuban flag established in 1871 by Cuban patriots, by his and his wife's freedom. And they moved to Key West where they bought a farm. Sandy Cornish became a very successful farmer. He was able to grow fruits and vegetables that nobody else was able to grow. And he sold that produce to the U.S. Navy. He became very wealthy and a pillar of the community. And he started a church which is coming up on our right. The Cornish Memorial AME Zion Church. As we drive by, look up and you'll see a beautiful I've Got stained glass window. That church catered to the African American community that made up Bahama Village, which is this neighborhood to our right. Bahama Village is a wonderful neighborhood to walk around and explore. There's a lot of cute little cottages and nice little restaurants that had a tax auction in 1931 for just $9,000 and gave it to Ernest Hemingway and Pauline as a wedding present. Who wished they got a house in Key West as a wedding present? Today you can take guided tours through the house and visit with the descendants of Ernest Hemingway's polydactyl cat, Snowball. Who knows what a polydactyl cat is? Six-toed by Ernest Hemingway and his friends. Ernest Hemingway got put on a list of tourist attractions, and he got tired of tourists showing up on his doorstep unannounced. So him and his buddies built that brick wall around the house. I always like to think that he had a few drinks when he was building it because it's definitely not square or straight. Now, Ernest Hemingway could always find his way home from Sloppy Joe's because he lived right across the street from the Key West Lighthouse. Today, the lighthouse was decommissioned by the U.S. Coast Guard in 1969. This white building to our right is the lighthouse keeper quarters. Notice it's a duplex. That's because it took two families to operate the lighthouse. One would operate it for half the day, and the other would operate it for the second half. Now, as we make this left-hand turn, look over your left-hand shoulder, and you'll get an excellent view of the top of the lighthouse. On the right-hand side of the canal is what we call the Gold Coast. We call it that because it takes a lot of gold to live there. Now, people like to paddleboard and kayak up and down the Riviera Canal. So this body of water to our left is the Straits of Florida. It connects the Gulf of Mexico with the Atlantic Ocean and stretches 90 miles to Cuba. Our next stop is stop number 9, the East Martello Towers, a Civil War fort. Now, during the Civil War, Key West was part of the Union, even though Florida was the third state to secede. And you can take a glass-bottom boat tour, snorkeling trip, or scuba diving trip out to that reef. Enjoy the tropical fish and coral we have. During the 1800s, that reef supported our wrecking industry. About once a week, a sailing vessel full of cargo would wreck on the reef, and wreckers would be looking out from towers from Key West. When they saw a ship ground, the call would go out across the island. Bedroom inside that entire mansion. Now the Harrises weren't rude. They built 3 guest houses right across the street from their overnight guests. And each of those guest houses had its very own servants' quarters. Now there was a writer by the name of Miss Strable who wrote a book called Reap the Wild Winds about the wrecking industry. It was actually turned into a movie where John Wayne plays a bad guy. Well, Miss Strable wanted to buy the southernmost house, but they wouldn't sell it to her. So she bought this property coming up on our left, and she built this house 18 inches further south, calling it the southernmost house. Southernmost house. Now to your left, you have the southernmost line, with the southernmost tourist. And they are waiting to take their southernmost selfies at the southernmost point. And you are a Walmart. Woohoo! I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cuba. If they see something suspicious, they'll send Coast Guard vessels out to intercept it. Most of the time, it's drug runners. Now, 8 miles to our east, we have the Boca Chica Air Base, which is the Navy's jet fighter pilot training school. And we also have the Army's Underwater Combat School, which is the Army's version of the Navy SEALs training and art galleries. In contrast, Lower Duval Street is known for its open bars and t-shirt shops. You should definitely visit both ends of Duval Street to get a good feel for it. Coming up on your right behind the red umbrellas is La Tidas, short for La Tesorerie de Marti, or the Terrace of Marti. Jose Marti, the George Washington of Cuba, would give speeches from a second-floor balcony to his fellow Cuban patriots during Cuba's revolution from Spain. This white building on our left is a reproduction of the Key West Cuban Club. For a small weekly fee, you could join the Cuban Club, where you'd have access to recreation. It said they had some of the best dances on the island. You'd also get access to lawyers, doctors, and medicine. Now, the Cuban clubs went out of fashion after World War II, as health insurance companies became more prominent. And we're about to pull into stop number 12. This will be your stop for Upper Duval Street. Ernest Hemingway's house, the Key West Lighthouse, and the Basilica